Time to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake! What?
Time to wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake! What?
Time to wake up. Time to wake up.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wake Up Show. Shalom. Peace in the mighty name of Jesus, who's blessed forevermore. I'm having some difficulty. First of all, I want to thank the Most High for all that He has provided for me and for His people, and letting me be a vessel to help, teach His people and those that wish to be His people. All right. All glory and praise to the Father in the mighty name of Jesus. I'm having some difficulty because I don't know what was going on with my computer, but now my computer looks like I'm streaming slow. Like, am I pixelating and stuff? Because if this is too bad, I probably might wait till tomorrow morning and do this. Mikael, my brother, how am I looking, man? I just hit in the chat. Am I streaming good or is it bad? Do me a favor, check on YouTube as well. Because I am pixelating like crazy. And I just want to make sure that it's my computer doing it and not the stream doing it. So hit me in the chat real quick, man. Let me know if I'm okay. Because I don't want to do all of this and then have to do it again tomorrow. I'll probably got a bad connection or something. But for those until my brother answers me, again, I'd like to thank everybody on Facebook that's tuning in. I'd like to thank everybody on YouTube stream called D Live. My brother Mikael Hook go, and it looks like it's probably kind of cool. So I'm gonna see if I can set up an account on D Live and people can watch too. Right now, like I said, well, you know what? Because maybe it's pretty bad on my laptop. Are you on YouTube too? Yeah, I'm on YouTube as well, man. But I don't want to. It's a lot of buffering. Yeah, I'm sorry, people, because if it's gonna stay this bad, I'm not gonna do this lesson. This lesson I'm doing is for encouragement and through these troubling times that we're going through with pestilence. And I really want people to get the picture of what's going on when it comes to protecting ourselves by keeping the commandments of God where the Lord will protect us as well. So, man, I really don't want to do this, but if it's bad, if it's still buffering bad, people, happy Sabbath, everybody coming in. The audio seems okay, brother. Who is that? You know, I need better glasses, brother Robert. The audio seems okay, but the screen is pixelating. What about on YouTube? Would we? Yeah, bro. Yeah, we need this lesson, and I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be messed up. There's a slight delay. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and do this lesson. If it goes bad, if I check back and it's bad, I'm gonna do it again tomorrow morning, probably at the same time, 8 o'clock. You know, hopefully the internet isn't bad or my connection ain't bad. So let's go ahead and do this lesson, man. Hedges of protection. All right. Before we get started with that again, people know I like to open up for newcomers so they don't get caught up in to apologists telling them what they can't and can't do when the Lord's priest is telling you what the Lord says you can and can do. And one thing he did do is that he showed us. Let's all go to Isaiah 28. And hopefully, let me see, I done wasted 15 minutes already. So let's go to Isaiah 28. And we're going to start reading at verse 9. Isaiah 28, verse 9. So these next three places that we're going, it's just for newcomers. Most of y'all have already been with me with these verses. Verse 28, Isaiah 28, verse 9. Whom shall he? He is the Lord. Okay, let's understand that. Who shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. Who's the only one the Lord has ever said he is known, according to Amos 3? It's only been the children of Israel. And he told the children of Israel in Exodus 19 that they would be a nation of priests. No other nation is the priest of the Lord. None. Only the priest of Israel. And we're not talking about the ones that's over there in the land now calling themselves the priests. We're talking about the ones that were shipped around the world, scattered on slave ships because of their disobedience. But even though even though we were disobedient, he still stayed with us. He still kept hedges of protection through the curses he laid upon us. Let's keep going. Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. You're going to get people like urban and Christian apologists that's going to tell you you can't go here and there a little and precept upon precept. Yes, you can, as long as it's sound doctrine, like we're going to do today. All right? Here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. Now I'm going to talk to my Hebrew brothers that say that you're not going to understand what the Lord is talking about unless you know Hebrew. Now, you can learn Hebrew on your own if you want to. No problem in that. I don't have a problem. But the Lord knew he was scattering us around the world on slave ships, and he's still going to talk to his people. Now, you keep reading, it'll tell you they still ain't trying to hear me. But he's speaking to us in different languages. And the language he spoke to me in is English. So that's what I'm going to teach in English. Let's go to Isaiah 8. So now that he has taught me and the rest of his priests in English here in the States, his word, how are we supposed to teach it in English here in the United States or around the world for those that understand English? Isaiah 8 and verse 20. This is how we're supposed to teach. To the law and to the testimony. Let's read that again. To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So if someone is only speaking the law, there's no light in them because they don't have the testimony with the law. If anybody is just dealing with the testimony, which is the the New Testament. I was getting ready to say something I shouldn't say, but if it's the New Testament and they're not dealing with the law, they have no light in them either. You must have a perfect balance, the law and the testimony. How do we know this? Let's go to Revelation 14 and show you how you have to have the law and the testimony if you want eternal life. Revelation 14. I'm going to read one verse 12. Here are the patience of the saints. Now, you got people that like to scream that they're the saints, but what did the saints do? What will these saints do to get everlasting life? Here are they that keep the commandments of God, the law, and the faith of Jesus, the testimony. So again, if they're not keeping the commandments of God, but claiming to keep the faith of Jesus, there's no light in them. If they're claiming that they keep the commandments, but they ain't got nothing to do with Jesus, there's no light in them either. This is what the book say. Get mad at me all you want to. So you get mad at me all you want to. From Genesis to Revelation is salvation. Straight up. That's all it comes down to. So let's get to this hedges of protection. I hope the stream is getting better. Let's go to Psalms 34. Let's go to Psalms 34. In the midst of what we're going through in this world when it comes to this coronavirus and this plague or pandemic, not really going to talk much about it, but I just want to give some encouragement to those who may be a tad bit scared of what's going on. A tad bit scared. Last night, when daylight savings time comes, I usually do my prep shopping on Friday because I know the sun going down late. So after I get off work, I usually go to the store. I really didn't even know. Now, I've been out all day working, and I didn't know everybody was running to the stores and buying everything up. Man, I got to that shop. I got over there, and I was in the line for like an hour. I just prep shopped. I didn't shop. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have bags of groceries. I just had what I needed for the Sabbath and a little bit more. But it took an hour to get from the back of the store to the register. That's how long, and in my opinion, people were panicking. Now, some people say, well, they're preparing too, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just saw the look on people's faces and heard people talking, and I'm just like, man, yeah, people are scared. But if you are a servant of the Lord, you understand, but you do what the Lord tells you to do, and you have faith that the Lord will protect you. So that's why I made this lesson last night. This wasn't even what I was going to do. And I thank the Lord for putting it on me. Psalms 34, verse 1. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. That's the biggest thing that's going on now. Everybody's in fear. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit worried, but panicking. They looked unto him and were enlightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encampeth around about them that fear him and delivereth them. See, for those that want to say, well, we don't have to keep the Lord's commandments and stuff, man. If you don't do what the Lord say, how do you expect him to protect you? Even in this world, let's say you got a store, you own a store. We all know somebody gonna come around and be like, hey man, you're gonna need protection with this store. And I don't care who it is, it could be the cops too. You gotta have faith that these cats are gonna actually protect your store. Because if they don't, if you don't do what they ask you to do, even though it's illegal, they will leave it open, and then they'll probably be the ones that'll come and mess your store up. Same thing with the Lord. All he wants us to do is to obey him. If we obey him, he will protect us. Verse 7 again, and the angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. Well, I ain't supposed to be afraid of God. No, you're supposed to be, you are. You're supposed to love the Lord, but you're supposed to fear him, because just like with your parents, you love your parents, but at one point you feared them. Even though you loved them. Let's go to Job 1. Let's look when it comes to the angel of the Lord encampeth around them that fear him. Let's go to Job, first chapter. Hopefully I get this done before I have to leave. Job, the first chapter. Job 1 and verse 1. And there was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, and one who feared God and eschewed evil. So let's remember, Job feared the Lord. He loved the Lord, but he feared him. I'm going to do what this cat say, or I might get in trouble. Verse 2, and there was born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yokes of oxen and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them. He separated them, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. And Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. Job prayed for his kids. Job's kids was some bad little whatevers. Let me watch my tongue, my Hebrew. And he was still praying for them. We're going to read where sometimes the prayer of someone else can help you, or your prayer for somebody else can help them. Verse 6, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? And Satan answered and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? The Lord is offering Job, someone who feared God and eschewed evil. But the Lord is offering him up, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and eschew evil. What did the Lord just call Job? A perfect and upright man. So this means Job was keeping commandments of God, just like Enoch. This isn't saying that Job never sinned, never saying that Enoch never sinned. Eventually, people got to get themselves together and they can become perfect and upright in the eyes of the Lord. Verse 9, then Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for naught, for nothing? Has not thou made an hedge about him? What is the hedge? The hedge is protection. Like I said before, you own a store, someone's trying to put their hedges around you. You're going to have to pay them for it, but that's what they're trying to do because there's other cats that want to come and make money off of you and want to protect you from them. But when in this case, the Lord is the one saying, you keep my commandments, I will protect you. And this is Christ. Has not thou made an hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Well, yeah. If someone is obeying me, if my children are obeying me, I'm going to reward them. And they'll continue to obey me, and I'll continue to reward them. But they also know if they decide to dishonor me, that I will punish them. Ain't no different when it comes to the Lord. But put forth, verse 11, but put forth thy hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. The Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put forth not thine hand. So so Satan was granted permission from God. It's not a fight between God and Satan. Satan working for God. He had to come present himself with the sons of God, the other angels. And that's just one part of the sons of God. That's not the angels in Genesis 9 that got women pregnant. Those were those sons of God was the line of Seth. All right. To become sons of God. And they kept the commandments and they were the sons of God too. But he gave him permission to just deal with everything that Job had, but he couldn't touch Job. Now you can read the rest of the chapter on your own. I was going to read it, but because I started late, you can read the rest of the chapter on your own and see what happened to Job's substance. Let's skip down to verse 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped and said, naked came out of my mother's womb and naked shall return thither. Well, he's not going back into his mother's womb naked. He's going to go into the earth when he dies. The Lord gave and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Now that's wise. Knowing that God is in control, things get taken away from you. God allowed it to happen. Let's go over to Job 2. Start at verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them to present himself before the Lord. Satan again is coming before the Lord, not the Lord fighting against Satan. And the Lord said unto Satan, from whence thou comest? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one who feareth God and eschews evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. Even though this man has done, he obeys me, but you're the one, Satan, that wants me to go up against him. So I allowed you to do something. You killed his family, his flock, and all that. And what did he do? Did he turn and curse me? Nope. He worshiped me. Verse 7. And Satan answered, verse 4. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin, yeah. All that a man hath, he will give for his life. But put forth thy hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So now Satan was saying, listen, you take all that stuff away from him, but what about him getting sick? What about him catching diseases? And the Lord said, what? All right, you can touch him, but you can't kill him now. And he took him verse 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then, then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die. Now, this is Job's wife, who saw everything that Job got, saw everything that happened to her family, saw what started happening, witnessed what was happening to Job now. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? So who is this that's speaking through Job's wife? Satan. First, he brings him to the lowest of low. Then he brings his wife, someone he loves the most out of everybody, out of everything, and uses her to say, curse God and die. What does he do? But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. Oh, let me say something like that today to some of my sisters. What? It's an argument. It's going down. It's going down. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. Don't speak like a foolish woman then. This man was perfect and upright, and bad things started happening to him, and his woman turned on him. But again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. The Lord was still protecting Job. He allowed him to go through hell, basically. And he didn't turn from the Lord because he knew all this stuff was coming from the Lord. But his wife, we losing everything. What you doing? You stupid. You need to just go on and die. Everybody needs to take a good look at that. Somebody going through something, kicking a horse when it's down, it does not help the situation. It can make things even worse. We got to try the spirits that's talking to us to get us to say something bad to the other person because we're mad at them. Oh, they didn't do this for me. They didn't do that for me. Oh, he had money, but now he don't have no money no more. Oh, now he's sick. I'm gonna leave him because I don't want to take care of him. But you were there for the good times, but now in the bad times, what did the marriage vow say? Now the bad times are coming and you leaving. But the Lord's hedges is still around that person. And this goes vice versa. Same thing with brothers. Something didn't happen to your wife. Now you want to leave because, hey, she's sick. She in a chair. For better or for worse, right? And the hedges of the Lord is right there, especially for the one that is that's keeping the word of God, the commandments of God, not the commandments of men. So them hedges was there, right? That's what we're striving for. That's what we're trying to keep the hedges around us to keep us from the pestilence that's going on. Now, just like with Job, even though the Lord offered him and he was perfect, he still allowed the pestilence to come to him, but he didn't let him kill him. Even some of the servants of God might catch a disease, but will they die? This is why we got to keep these commandments and pray that the Lord keeps us, especially for whatever type of job we're supposed to be doing for him. Let's go to Exodus 12. Let's see these hedges again. Exodus 12. Got to understand, man. These things is coming down. And this is especially, even though I'm speaking especially to Israel who knows this book, again, this is to encourage everyone, but also for those that don't know the Lord, that's now seeking, because the Lord will allow things to happen. And this thing that's going on is a worldwide thing. And there's a lot of people. I made a joke, a post joke a couple of days ago. Well, it really wasn't a joke. It was a question. I said, I wonder how many people are attending churches now who'd never attended church, or those that only came for, in the Hebrew community, for the feast days, not really on the Sabbath, or even in the first day church, who really just comes for Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. What did that woman call them again? CME Christians. They only come Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, but they never come during the regular church services. I wonder how many people are doing that now. The Lord is showing himself, and I'm quite sure there's a lot of people that's like, let me go to church. But once this passes over, are you going to stay there? Or are you going to go right back into the world again? Let's go to Exodus 12 and read how the Lord had hedges over the children of Israel. Exodus 12, we're going to start reading at verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are, and I will see the blood, and I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. So we were instructed to kill this lamb on Passover on the 14th day of Abib and put the blood on the doorposts so the Lord wouldn't come into our houses and kill our firstborn. That's mad faith. Faith without works is dead. If the Lord says to do something or to not do something, and you do the opposite of whatever he said to do or not do, that's not faith, because you're not keeping his work. You're not doing work. You claim you believe, but you really don't. Let's skip down to verse 21. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And when ye take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out from the door of your houses in the morning. So it was more than just that. You couldn't leave the crib. You go outside, you ain't protected under the blood in your house. Because remember, the blood shall be upon you for a token upon the houses. And if you're in the house, then you are protected. Let's skip down to verse. Now, let me keep going. Verse 23. For the Lord will pass through this and smite the Egyptians. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and the two side posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you. That's why you couldn't go outside the house. Because if you went outside the house, the destroyer was going to destroy you. But as long as the destroyer saw the blood on the doorpost, he would not go into that house because it was protected by the Lord's hedges. And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. Let's skip down to verse 28. And the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. So it was a commandment to do this. And they had faith that the Lord would not kill them if they did the work and put the blood on the doorposts. Verse 29, and it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne until the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, and all the servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. But when it came to the children of Israel, they didn't have that problem if they obeyed exactly what Moses told them to do, that the Lord told Moses to tell them to do, which was a work with their faith. And the hedges protected them. The blood on the doorpost was the hedge. And the angels are standing around protecting. Not destroyer, you can't come in this one. Okay. Let's go to Exodus 14. Exodus 14. We're going to start at verse 9. Now, after all of that happened, the children of Israel left, right? Because, Pharaoh was like, man, go serve your God. Bless me also. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart because the Lord wanted to destroy Egypt. He really wanted Pharaoh in Egypt bad. Exodus 14, we're going to start reading at verse 9. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and of the chariots and of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea. Besides Pihatheroth before Belizephon. And when, I'm sorry, y'all, when it comes to these words and I see him, I just be like, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, verse 10. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. Again, we're not supposed to have any fear, but it's going to happen. This is when you do exactly what they did. Turn to Jerusalem and cry out to the Lord. For you, for your children, for your friends, family, for all those that keep the commandments of God, even for those who don't, that they may see, hey, we got to keep these commandments of God. Let's skip down to verse 19. So they cried out unto the Lord when they saw the Egyptians coming, right? Verse 19. And the angel of God went before the camp of Israel, removed and went, I'm sorry. And the angel of the Lord, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and there was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to those to these, so that the one came not near to the other all that night. So the Lord is the one who made the Egyptians, just like he made Satan come after Israel. But then he had the angel of the Lord that was in front of the camp go around to the back of the camp. And it was at nighttime. And so it was night back there for the Egyptians, but on this side it was light for Israel. Hedges of protection. Let's keep reading. And the children of Israel went in the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right and onto their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went after them in the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning, the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. They realized this, we're trapped. This was a setup. They realized this. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thy hand. Hold on, I want to try something, y'all. Hold on. Let me see if I can get my brother Ray Euban's voice. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch thy hand over the sea, and that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. Did I get it? Did I get Ray Euban? I'm trying to talk like I'm trying to have that power voice like him, but I don't know if I can get it. But anyway, verse 27. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength. And when the morning appeared, the Egyptians fled against it. And the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. So now, what the Lord wanted to do, he did. But he had his angels protecting the Israelites. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of the Pharaoh came that into the sea after them. Them hedges of protection, the children of Israel were not an army. They didn't know how to fight the Egyptians. But the Lord protected them and killed all the Egyptians off. But the children of Israel walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord. There's that fear of the Lord again. They feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. They already had faith because they were told what to do and they did it, and they saw what came to pass, and they were glad. And in these days, we got to have that same faith that if we are doing what the Lord said for us to do, that he will protect us through the things that are happening. Let's go to Genesis. Let me see, what time is it? Yeah, I think I can get this in. Let's go to Genesis 7. Even before the children of Israel, the Lord showed his hedges and his protection, because the world was so bad that he wanted to kill everybody. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, right? So he told Noah to do some things. He told him to work. Believe what I'm telling you, which is your faith that you believe what I'm telling you. But I'm telling you what to do to save yourself. Genesis 7, we're going to start reading at verse 1. And the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark. For thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. He was the only one that was righteous in his whole generation. That's why he found grace in the eyes of the Lord in Christ. Skip down to verse 5. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. Do y'all see the pattern? If the Lord says to do something or to not do something and you obey the Lord, he is protecting you. Verse 6. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Now let's understand something. Noah was the only one that was righteous. The book never says about the three sons, but because the three sons obeyed Noah and the wives obeyed their husbands, they were all saved. That's hold on, people. Hold on a second, man. Oh, the family structure that Satan has flipped upside down. This man alone, the Lord could have this ain't what the book's saying, but the Lord could have just saved Noah. I want you to build you a little rinky-dink boat, or I want you to build an ark, and I'm gonna give you these animals, but you the only one I want to go in. Once you get to the other side, I'm gonna bring another woman up out of you. But see, his wife obeyed him. His children obeyed him. His children's wives obeyed him. And they all had the protection of the Lord. I got to sip on that again. I'm sorry. I got to sip on that again. They all had the protection of the Lord because he was the head of the household. Let's keep reading. Verse 10. It came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. And in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, in the 7th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the three wives of his sons with them in the ark. And they skip down to verse 16. And they went in male and female of all flesh, as of God had commanded him, and the Lord shut them in. So now the Lord is shutting them in. That means he's protecting them. They just went into the ark. The Lord is the one that closed it all up. Let's skip down to verse 21. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl, both of cattle, and of beasts, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, and whose nostrils was the breath of life, that all was of all that was in the dry land died. and every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and of creeping things, and of fowl, and of heaven, that they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And they were protected by the Lord because they did what the Lord said to do. They kept his commandments, not the ones written on stone. They were doing that anyway. Because when you start, what is it, Genesis 5, when you read about Seth, and it says that then men then men called upon the name of the Lord. So that's showing that that line was the only ones that was obeying the Lord. And this is why when it got to Noah, he had grace. And then his family got saved because of him. But they were all protected by the hedges of protection of the Lord. Let's go to Genesis 18. When all destruction is coming down around us, if we're keeping the commandments of God, let's just understand the Lord is protecting us. Genesis 18, verse 23. Genesis 18, verse 23. This is when Sodom and Gomorrah was about to get destroyed. And the angels were on their way. And the Lord was like, I need to tell Noah this. For I know him. I know Noah. So I'm going to let him know what I'm about to do. Verse 23. And Abraham drew near and said, verse 22. And the men turned their eyes from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure, there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy not spare the place for the 50 righteous which are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Man, Abraham was bold, man. My fear of the Lord is, yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir. But this dude was like, wait a minute. You gonna kill the righteous with the wicked? Aren't you the just? Man. So what the Lord said, and the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. Now you can read the rest of the chapter on your own. You will find out that Abraham started knocking it down. And he knocked it down to, for 20's sake? He started knocking the numbers down, right? When you understand the book, we know why Abraham was knocking the numbers down. Because earlier in the book of Genesis, him and his nephew Lot went separate ways, and Lot went and pitched near Sodom and Gomorrah. They were in Sodom and Gomorrah. So now that we know that, let's go to Genesis 19. Genesis 19, we're going to start reading at verse 12. And this is when the angels came into Sodom, and the evilness of men wanted to have sex with these men. They were angels in the form of men, and they wanted to have sex with them, which was evil. And this was one of the main things that the Lord was upset about when it came to Sodom and Gomorrah. Now look at the world. Now look at this world. Verse 12. For we will destroy this place because of the cry of them that is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law. I didn't want to read that. Yeah, I did. And spake to his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that was mocked, and his unto his sons-in-law. So the Lord warned Lot what was going to happen. So Lot went to go tell his sons-in-law because he had other daughters besides the two that left with him that were virgins. He had other daughters first that married other brothers. Don't think Lot just had two daughters. He had more than that. We don't know how many he had. 15. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy two daughters, which are here. Because remember, he tried to go save his other daughters through their husbands, but they were knuckleheads. Lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And when he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his two daughters, and Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. Lot was lingering around, and the angels took his family and brought them out. And it came to pass that when they had brought him forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not to be behind thee, neither say, Stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. So here's a commandment. Through the angel of the Lord is telling them, escape for your life and don't look behind you. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight. Grace did not start in Matthew. It started in Genesis through Christ. And thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape unto the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now the city which is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. It is not a little one, and my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything until thou come thither. Therefore the name of the city is called Zoar. And the sun was risen upon the earth, and Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah, and upon Gomorrah, brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. So the Lord is stoning these cities except Zoar, which is protected by the hedges of the Lord. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. She disobeyed the Lord. First, she disobeyed. Well, the angels told them, but she should have stuck with her husband. She disobeyed. She came from under the protection of her husband, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Verse 27, and Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as a smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities which Lot dwelt. Does anybody understand? Lot kept the commandments of God, but Abraham was the one that really prayed for Lot. And that's what we got to do as a people. We have to pray for one another. Can't just pray for myself, pray for my family. We got to pray for others that's doing and trying to be righteous as well. Pray that those hedges of the Lord protect other people who's trying to be just as righteous as you or righteous as anybody else. Also pray for those who don't keep the commandments, that they may see what, just like with Israel. Remember, the Lord had to prove to Israel from their eyes that he existed. Now we're living in reading and having faith, but some of these other nations, they may not have that faith. They may have to see things and then be like, "Oh, we going with you because we know that the Lord is with you. Give me your skirt." That may have to happen. So I pray for everybody. Care what people say. I ask if the Lord, if it is your will, Lord, for this person to wake up and be righteous, is up to you, not up to me. Let's go to Daniel. Let's go to Daniel. Let's see some really good hedges. I mean, we seeing hedges like crazy, the protection. But let's go to Daniel. Let's see some more hedges. Daniel 3. We're going to go to Daniel 3. And let's read Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel 3, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Durin, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to and gathered together the princes and the governors and the captains and the judges, the treasurers and the counselors of and the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes and the governors and the captains and the judges, the treasurers and the counselors and the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried out, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at the time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And whoso falleth not down and worship the same that shall, and whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of the fiery furnace." So Nebuchadnezzar made this god of gold and commanded everyone to fall down and worship it. It's going to happen again, people. But we're going to stick to these hedges. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all the kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said unto King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worship, that he should be cast into the midst of the fiery furnace, burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, keeping the Lord's commandments, even though they're in captivity, even though the Lord sent the king of Babylon and took them back to Babylon, they're still keeping the commandments of God. And what was that one commandment? Thou shalt have no other commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods before thee. And and not no images, and shouldn't bow down to them either. Then Nebuchadnezzar sent in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye will not worship not, ye shall be cast into the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said unto the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. We ain't about to answer you in a certain way and be politically correct to please you. 17. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. He will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. This is mad faith, man. This is mad faith. These cats were like, listen, we will die instead of bowing down to that thing. If the Lord, you can put us in that fiery furnace, and if the Lord don't want us to burn, it ain't gonna happen. And if it does happen, I'd rather die than and then come down and bow before that thing, that idol, that your God. See, what a lot of us don't understand, even if we die and we're keeping the commandments of God, we coming up in that resurrection, man. This is how much faith these cats had. Verse 19, then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, in the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded them they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it won't be to be heated. So 7 times more hotter than it is already. Look what happened when they started taking them. And he commanded the most mighty men that they and in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their horsens, which is their pants, in their hats and other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the fiery furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So Nebuchadnezzar made the flame so hot that the mighty men that were taking them there, it killed them. But it didn't kill these 3 yet. Verse 24, then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up into haste and spake and said unto his counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God, because the Lord had them hedges around these boys. Remember, the mighty men of his army was taking these boys into the fire, and they died. And these cats still walked in. These cats still walked in And then there was a fourth man with them. That was that angel. That was the Lord with his hedges around them. Let's keep reading. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God. Oh, now you recognize it. Remember, you the one that mocked and said, Lord, put you in there. Your God, sir. Now your God is serving. Oh, that is God. That's what I'm saying about things that's going to happen. That's happening now. There are going to be people that do not believe in God whatsoever. Or they believe in Christ, but not the way we do. And they're going to see things happen as a sign, not just for us, but for them. And a lot of them may turn and say, man, listen, we heard that the Lord is with you. Give me your skirt. I'm going where you going. Verse 27, and the princes and the governors and the captains and the king's counselors being gathered together saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was their hair of their head singed. So their hair was protected. It didn't just burn up. Neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they may not serve nor worship any God except their own God. These boys kept the commandments of God, because in the 10 commandments, again, it says, Thou shalt have no other gods before me. You shall have no graven images of anything in the earth or in the sea or beneath the sea or in the earth or whatever, and you will not bow down to them. And they kept it. And when they were tried and thrown in the furnace, nothing happened to them. Their clothes didn't burn. Their hair didn't burn. The hedge is so powerful, God's hedge. They didn't even smell like fire. But the men that tried to take them into the fire died. That's hedges. Let's look at Daniel's hedges. Daniel 6. Let's look at Daniel's hedges real quick. Verse 6. I'm sorry, Daniel 6 and verse 1. And it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 presidents of Daniel was first, that the princes may have accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm, just like Joseph. The leader, the king, he saw there's a spirit on this dude, and it's of righteousness. I'm going to set him above everything. But look what happened. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. So now there's other people who are jealous that are scheming to get this person out of the way. But they could find, I'm sorry, let's start at 4 again. Then the presidents of the prince and the princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault. For as much he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So they said, we're going to find something in the law of his God to get him to go against the law of the land. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king, and thus and said thus unto him, King Darius live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom and the governors and the princes and the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whomsoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, that it may not change according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, whether which altered not. Wherefore, King Darius, sign the writing and the decree. So they went and made laws that they knew would mess with the laws of God. They knew this because they knew how faithful Daniel was to the Lord. So they made up a law of the land to go against the law of the Lord because they wanted to get Daniel. Verse 10. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in the chamber towards Jerusalem, he kneeled down his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he did aforetime. So the decree was, if anybody wants to petition their God, they have to give us a written statement 30 days before they do it. Man, we supposed to be like Daniel. We supposed to be praying to the Lord every day. Every day. He got on his knee. He knew what the law of the land said, but he's like, man, listen, I'm praying to my God because my God is protecting me. And if you notice, his windows being open, his chamber towards Jerusalem. So he was praying towards Jerusalem. And remember where Babylon is. It's actually northeast of Jerusalem. So that means Daniel was facing southwest. We face towards Jerusalem when we pray. Verse 11. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication for his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall shall ask a petition of any god, or a man within 30 days, save thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor did he decree that thou hast signed, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. Then the king, which had heard these words, was sore displeased with himself. And he set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. See, now the king realized what these cats did. And he wanted to save Daniel. This wasn't a wicked king just like, oh, we'll kill him. No, he's like, I don't want that dude to die. I just set him over all of y'all because I trust this cat because of his God. 13, verse 15, Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians, that no decree nor statute which is the king established may be changed. Then the king commanded and brought and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. So you mean to tell me King Darius had faith? Wait a minute, this dude ain't even I got to sip again. I'm sorry. You mean to tell me King Darius of the Medes and the Persians, who's a Gentile, not an Israelite, had faith, he says here, thy God whom thou servest continually, he will save thee. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Again, he said, your God is going to save you, but he was still worried. This dude went and fasted for Daniel. He ain't have no music to calm him down, and he couldn't go to sleep. This is how much this leader of the Gentiles loved Daniel. He trusted Daniel and his God. Kings ain't kings for no reason. There's a lot of smart kings, man, whether they came from Israel or not. But then you got a lot of dumb kings like the ones that came from Israel. But anyway, then the king arose very early in the morning and went and hastened to the lion's den. And when he came into the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God. I'm sorry, servant of the living God is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel. There's that hedge again. My God has sent his angel and has shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. For as much as be before him, innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, I have done no hurt. Let's keep reading. Verse 23. Then the king was exceeding glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. He had faith that the Lord was not going to let him die in that den. Why? Because all that time, the Lord, Daniel was keeping the commandments of God in the land of his captives. Not in the land of Israel, in the land of his captives. Where are we now, Israel? In the land of our captives. And we got to keep that same faith and understand and believe, if we are serving the Lord, that he got his hedges around us. We have to believe that. Verse 24. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions had a mastery of them, and break all their bones into pieces, or ever they came out of the bottom of the den. These guys, these leaders, tried to set up one of the Lord's servants who served him. And the Lord saved him. And then that king who figured out this plot sent all those men and their children and their wives. The children and the wives ain't have nothing to do with it, but sent all of them into the lion's den, and the lions chewed them up. And that's sad. Verse 25. Then King Darius wrote unto all the peoples, nations, and languages that dwelt on the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and steadfast forever in his kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. His dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the sign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Yeah, Gentiles knew about the Lord back in them days too, especially in Babylon. They knew. It's just that we don't know that they knew. We think, oh, all this happened when Paul got started. No, it really got started back in Egypt because all them nations knew what happened to Egypt. They knew about the God that saved Israel, and they feared Israel. Let's go to Psalms. Yeah, let's go to Psalms 121. Them hedges protected Daniel. Them hedges protected Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It protected Noah, protected Lot, Abraham. It protects everyone that keeps the Lord's commandments. And sometimes, listen, even in your life, the Lord could be protecting you and you ain't keeping the commandments because he's giving you grace, which is time and mercy to find out about it and to get it together so he can keep them hedges around you. Psalms 121. We're going to start reading at verse 1. I will lift my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he keepeth Israel, shall neither slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, even forevermore. Let's go to Psalms 91. The Lord is protecting those who love him, and even some that don't love him. Again, like I say, he's trying to give everybody a chance. But if you abuse your grace, you may cut yourself. Your grace can run out, and then you could die. Oh yeah, for those that want to say, nah, grace ain't what you getting ready to say. It is. It's just like your light bill, just like your gas bill, your phone bill. If you got prepaid anything, you getting cut off right then and there, right? Like I got prepaid cell phone. If I don't pay it by a certain date, it's cut off. But if you got the contract thing and you can't pay it on that date, you get a grace period to pay it or you get cut off. And that's what grace is. It's a free gift that you don't deserve. But the Lord is trying to save not only his people, but the rest of the nations to become his people. And that's why he got these hedges out here for those who are trying to be his people. Psalms 91, verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God, and him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. I'm sorry, I got a little emotional on that verse. From the noisome pestilence, he will deliver you from that. Yes, the Lord has given us pestilence and through the curses and all that because we deserve it. But now he's starting to get down on all the nations. And we got to believe because we are trying to keep these commandments and trying to serve the Lord that he's going to protect us from it. We have to believe that. And then we got to continue to stay in his word. Verse 4, he shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and thy buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, and for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come near to thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come near thy dwelling. For he that giveth his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. We have to believe this, even though this is also talking about the future in the wilderness. But we also have to believe that the Lord, because we're trying to do what he say, is protecting us from these pestilence things. Have to have your belief, have to have your faith, and then walk with God. Because I do believe, like my brother said, we in the beginning, I believe the beginning of sorrow started a while ago. It's just us here in the United States. Oh, this is something big now. Because back in Africa, please, if you knew the things that was going on there. Let's go to Revelation 7. He said he will protect thee, right? He's going to do the same thing in the future. And if you are a servant of the Lord, if you're trying to be a servant of the Lord by keeping these commandments and laws and statutes, and you're still living at that time, let's read Revelation 7, verse 1. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending out of the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. He's putting the hedges on his people now. The same way he put the marking hedges, the same way he ordered us to put the same marking edges on our doorposts and stay in the house. Now he done commanded the angels to go and mark these servants of God so they won't get hurt. He's putting his hedges around his people. He's putting his hedges around the people who want to become a part of his people. Because when it's time for these angels to start hurting the earth, these people will be protected. Deuteronomy 31. Almost done. 2 more verses. Deuteronomy 31. Hallelujah. In the mighty name of Jesus. Deuteronomy 31. He told us this too. Back in the law. Back in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. I'm sorry. I got emotional up in this lesson. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I got emotional up in this lesson. It do it to you, man. Because I had something else, but this was just coming to me. And I thank the Lord for it. Deuteronomy 31. We're going to start reading at verse 6. This is when, let me make sure. Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. Let's read. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And Moses called unto Joshua and said unto him, in the sight of all of Israel, be strong and of good courage, for thou must go with this people into the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. We got to believe that the Lord is before us, even though he is the one that's putting these pestilence down and the things that's going to happen. We got to believe that he is for us, before us. I'm sorry. And he got his hedges around us. And even if he allows us to die, we still have to have faith. I'm coming up in that resurrection. I was joking with one of my brothers in a back chat, and they like to, I ain't gonna say what my nickname is to them, but he was joking, talking about, I'm gonna stone you. I said, stone me? But when I come up in that first resurrection, you better come up with me, because if not, you the first one I'm looking for. That's how much faith we gotta have, especially when the times really, really get hard. Because look what happened to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel. Times got really hard for them. Fire, lions. Them Lord's hedges was right there. And he's telling us here in Deuteronomy, the Lord will not forsake us. If we don't forget the Lord, he won't forget about us. He will not come to us in that day and say, I never knew you. I don't know who you are. That means he forgot. You were blotted out of his book. Let's go to what Christ said when he came in the flesh. Let's go to St. John 14. It's the last place. You want them hedges around you? We're going to see what Christ said. We know Christ said, if you want to live forever, keep the commandments, right? Well, if you want these hedges around you, you want the Lord's hedges around you, look what Christ said. John 14:14. If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. If ye love me, keep my commandments. Now, for those that want to say, well, the Lord's commandments is different from the Father's commandments. No, it's not. The Lord came and told us the will of my Father is what he's doing. He said, my doctrine is not of mine, but of him that sent me. So that's the Father's doctrine he's been teaching the whole time. Matthew 5, Matthew 5, Matthew 5, Matthew 22, and Matthew 19. All he talking about is the commandments of God. If ye love me, keep my commandments. He is the one that gave the law to Moses that people don't understand. One more time, if ye ask anything in my name, I will do it. If ye love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth with you and shall be in you. Why? Because you're keeping the commandments of God, because you love God. You love Christ. But when people say you don't have to keep that, they don't see it. Then we just read, listen, let's read it again. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive. So some people can't receive it because they're not the Lord's sheep. So the Lord's sheep, we got to keep this faith. We got to understand the Lord is going to protect us. And even if something by the side, we still got to keep the faith, because when tribulation really get bad, there's people that's going to die believing. It's been told us in the book, he shall prevail over the saints. Skip down to verse 21. He that hath commandments, and he that hath my commandments, and keepeth them, he is that loveth me. And he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and I will manifest myself to him. So if you keep the Lord's commandments, you love Christ, who gave the commandments to Moses in the first place. And then the Father will love you because you are listening to his Son. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him, if you believe in Christ, and Christ is telling you to keep the commandments, shall have everlasting life. Verse 22, Jesus answered and said unto them, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. He that loveth me he that loveth me not keepeth not my sayings, and the word which is ye hear is not mine, but the Father's which hath sent me. So everything Christ was talking about, when people want to say Christ came with his own stuff and did away with the law, everything Christ just got finished saying, everything I'm talking about comes from my Father. My Father came up with this and told me to do it, and I did it. And I'm telling you right now, to please the Father and me, you got to keep the commandments of God, and we will abode with you, and you will have this protection of hedges around you. That's what the books say. I did this lesson for an encouragement for those who are truly trying to keep the Lord's commandments. I usually don't do shout outs, but I want to thank my teacher, Brother Bowie, at the Israel of God, for his prayer last Sabbath over the congregation, that everyone that is doing the commandments of God be protected. The pestilence that's coming, somebody done did something wrong somewhere, and now the Lord done let it get lashed, whether it was created by the Lord or whether man created it is himself to protect his servants. And that moved me. And that's why I'm saying I'm supposed to have another lesson, but I could not get this off my mind. And I was working so hard, I didn't get a chance to put it all together. And this happened last night. And believe it or not, a few hours ago, I got the rest of the the rest of the verses together. The Lord wants his people to understand what's going on and to have faith in him and be encouraged. And don't fear the arrows that fly by day. So I really hope that this lesson is a blessing to some people and an encouragement. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. I started getting teary eyed because, like I said, I put this together, but while I'm talking, it like, oh my goodness, Lord is wonderful, man. So I thank y'all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the video. I hope that this lesson isn't bad. I'm gonna review it. If it's too choppy, too bad, then I'm gonna probably do it again tomorrow morning. So thank you for watching. Please like, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube. Happy Sabbath. All glory to the Father in the mighty name of Jesus. Peace.
Time to wake up.
Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake. Wake up!
Time to wake up. Time to wake up.